Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all my Game of Thrones Season 4 expectations video right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, and finally here to bring you all my predictions, speculations, and expectations for the 4th season of the HBO original series Game of Thrones. Now, first and foremost, let's dispense with the elephant in the room. I know a lot of you all are surprised that I've decided to pick up the Game of Thrones episode reviews again, especially since I announced at the end of my Season 3 reviews that I was hanging it up. You know, took off the crown, stepped off my throne, I'd thrown my hands up, both with the reviews, and I even contemplated dropping the series. And in the last year, I've had a bunch of viewers on the OAW YouTube channel, on the OAW Facebook page, the OAW Twitter page, and also some friends and family who have, you know, been trying to convince me to come back. But it wasn't until a buddy of mine, in my discussion with him, he pointed out a couple of things that really resonated with me, and it pretty much just boiled down to this. Number one, out of all the series that I currently review and have reviewed, since I started up this channel 4 years ago, Game of Thrones is the one series that I've been following from the beginning, from the pilot, and it's the one that I haven't missed an episode review for. So that was the first. Second, it's the longest running video segment on my channel. That was number 2, and then finally third, it's the flagship segment of my channel. It's the thing that my channel's most famous for. I mean, you can't even Google search OAW without Game of Thrones popping up in the autocomplete. So those 3 things taken into consideration, the fact that it's for the continuity's sake, to keep up the continuity of this channel, that I thought made the most sense. Also, it has come to my attention that my expected absence has inspired others to decide to throw their hats in the ring and want to go ahead and start reviewing Game of Thrones as well. Now, keep something in mind. It's YouTube, so anyone feel free to upload anything you would like, any content you would like to share. But just the idea that my absence from reviewing this series would bring in this flood of usurpers. I'm sorry, I can't have that. I can't allow that to stand, man. This aggression will not stand. No, I started this thing. I was the first Game of Thrones reviewer on YouTube. This is my segment, god damn it. And no, I'm not going out like Robert Baratheon or Ned Stark. You want me off this throne, you better bring a fucking army with you. It's not going to happen that easily. So keeping that in mind, I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not. So, one final note on that though. One other thing that really made me reconsider coming back was just the fact that after I had announced that I was no longer doing Game of Thrones, you know, I lost a ton of subscribers. Easily 300, if not closer to 500 or more. And the fact that so many of you guys stuck around, you know, watched my other videos, stayed subscribed to the channel, week in and week out, video after video, commented with your feedback and your messages and all that, that means something, that matters. You know what I mean? So you guys put your faith in me, and I feel like you deserve to be rewarded for said faith. So if nothing else, for those of you all who stuck around, this is for you guys. This is for you. So let's go ahead and let's jump into my expectations for Season 4. Got a lot of ground to cover, so sit tight. We're going to be here a while. Now, earlier today, I was able to catch the 30-minute Season 3 recap. I forget the name of it. It's like Politics at Play or something like that. But pretty much it's a 30-minute Season 3 recap, a breakdown of all the characters, their story arcs and whatnot. And it also gives some insight as to what they're going into coming into Season 4. And then I followed that up with a marathon of, I think, like the first 6 trailers for the 4th season. I mean, there's a ton of trailers out there, but I watched like 6 different trailers. So I'm pretty much caught up and whatnot. Yeah, and there's a ton of material to there's a ton of material to cover. So let's just jump right into it. First group I'm going to discuss is House Stark. You know, the home team. I got to start with the home team. Granted, our game is over for the most part. Team Stark lost. I admit that. After the Red Wedding, that was a wrap on a lot of things. Robb and Catelyn are now out of the picture. Robb's rebellion has ended. His forces have been disbanded. Those most loyal to him were slaughtered at the Twins, and then of course, you know, he lost to Karstarks halfway through the previous season, and the Boltons are now in leagues with the Lannisters. So all of his men are now gone. I assume that some might have survived the slaughter, but not enough of significant numbers to really have much effect. So pretty much all that's left are the kids. I don't know if you all noticed that as well, but the adults pretty much are all gone. Now, granted, I am speaking about Jon in the same regard when I mean the kids, but for the most part, it's him and his 4 younger siblings, and that's it. That's it. So, of the kids, I want to start with Arya. I don't know what to really expect from Arya in season 4, and the main reason for that is because we never got a header for her, or I guess you could say rather a footer ending season 3. Yeah, we never really got a footer for her at the end of season 3 that's supposed to foreshadow what her story arc in season 4 is going to be. We do know that in hindsight, Arya has pretty much served the purpose of being our eyes outside of the palace, if you will. It's through Arya that we do learn what's been going on outside of the main houses involved in the political conflict in Westeros. You know, it was in season 2 we learned what was going on in the Lannister camp. Why? Because she was in Harrenhal serving Tywin. In season 3, she was with the Brotherhood, and that's when we learned what they were doing and how the war started to spill over into some of the villages and some of the towns, and how the Brotherhood were pretty much, granted, they were doing their whole guerrilla warfare a bit, but they were more or less the ones responsible from keeping it from spilling over onto the streets. So I can only assume that Arya will follow through with that sort of narrative, that she's our eyes outside of King's Landing, outside of the war. I do expect her to keep traveling with the Hound, mainly because would a young girl want to travel by herself or with the fucking Hound? I mean, he can pretty much handle just about anything that comes his way, so if nothing else for security's sake, I think she'll stick around with the Hound. And it will be interesting to see some character development with those two. Granted, this only comes if they're given adequate enough screen time, and if we actually get some genuine scenes with just them. I think that's where that development, that character growth is going to transpire in that manner. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Arya. Now I'm going to segue over to her big sister. Now, you guys who watch my videos know I don't hold Sansa in very high regard. I don't care for her character one way or the other. Well, no, that's a lie. I don't care for her at all. I don't want to give off the impression that I like Sansa. I don't. So, as far as I'm concerned with Sansa, I just expect her to be doing what she's been doing, more or less of the same. Which I'll be honest, it's a shame, because now Sansa is probably in the most powerful position she's ever found her. Well, no. She's in the highest position she's ever found herself, I think, because prior to this, you know, she was supposed to be wedded to Joffrey, but she wasn't wedded to Joffrey. Now she actually is married to Tyrion. She is now a member of House Lannister. So she actually had now granted, that's to say, you know, she's married to Tyrion. It's not like she's married to Jaime. So that doesn't necessarily mean that she has, you know, any real pull in this whole story, but she sure as shit has more than she's ever had. You know, before first she was just Ned Stark's daughter, then she was just Joffrey's fiance, now she's Tyrion's wife. But knowing what we've seen from her character, I don't expect her to do anything with that. I don't. Especially since she doesn't trust Tyrion. Now, granted, I have some thoughts on Tyrion. I'll discuss those later in this video. But I don't ever expect her to actually get in leagues with Tyrion, to collaborate with him, to conspire something. I don't expect any of that from Sansa. Why? Because the writers have given me no reason to, and from what I understand, neither has the source material. There is nothing that would suggest anything of great significance is going to come from Sansa Stark. I'm sorry, I'm just calling it how I see it. Feel free to agree or disagree in the comments below. Hell, if that fucking Sansa sympathy movement sees this fucking video, they'll probably tear me another one. Those motherfuckers actually tried to crucify me after my Sansa rant. Good luck. Okay, now let's talk about the boys. Let's talk about the Stark boys, and yes, this does include Jon. Unfortunately, it seems like the Stark boys are the ones that actually are actually more involved in the story rather than the girls at this point. And like I said, that I don't want to give off the impression that it's like, oh, of course, well, the men would have to be in action and this, that, and the other. No. No, it has nothing to do with that. No, it's just because we already have Jon and Bran's storylines. Their storylines for season 4 have already been set up in season 3. Their stories have been building slowly over last season, so we got a footer for them. We know what they're supposed to be doing, so it's just easier to talk about them. Jon finally made it back to Castle Black, and I expect that he'll, well, I know, based off of the trailers and based off the previews and whatnot, he's pretty much going to rally what's left of the Night's Watch at Castle Black to defend the wall against Mance Rayder. Because remember, Jon escaped his group, but that was only a very small portion in Mance's overall fucking army. Mance still has an army. They're still coming. Nothing has changed. And Jon knows that. So yeah, it's time to bury down the fucking hatches and man the fort. He knows that. Now it will be interesting to see how Jon, how this whole thing plays out, because now Jon has been forced into a position of leadership, and I suspect that's not going to favor well with the other brothers at the Night's Watch. But I mean, hell, they got to do what they got to do, because if they don't, they'll be slaughtered. Simple and plain. Mance is going to bring his army in, he's going to wipe them all out, and that will be the end of their story. So if nothing else, I do think that they will band together behind Jon, just for that simple fact that if they don't, they're screwed. But who knows? Maybe they'll just abandon the fort. I don't think Jon will. I'm talking about the other brothers of the Night's Watch. That possibility is... that's possible. Yeah. Now, okay, I mentioned Bran, and the thing with I'm actually pretty curious to see what happens with Bran this season. The main reason is because in season 3, I didn't know what they were doing with him. It was hard to see what they were really setting up. We just got introduced to the Reeds in season 3. I didn't know what to make of them. 15-minute marker. We just got introduced to the Reeds, didn't know what to make of them, still hadn't figured out what Bran's actual power was until halfway through season 3, and then it wasn't until the last few episodes that Bran decided to go north of the wall. He said that's where the calling is. The answers that he's searching for, that's where they are. That's where his destiny is leading him. So I'm going to be real interested to see how that whole thing plays out, because now they're our only eyes north of the wall. They're going by themselves, and not only that, but the fact that the White Walker threat has become less of an concern for Jon and for the rest of the Night's Watch, because Mance is the more immediate danger. Bran now is going into that territory, so that'll pretty much be our window into the supernatural for season 4. And I like how that's set up, because now between Jon and Bran, we have a literal and physical separation of the political and the supernatural elements of the story now. Now that's not to say that Jon won't get involved in the White Walker hunt later on, but right now dealing with Mance is his #1 priority, which is good, because now that leaves Bran, that leaves more material for him, more territory for his story to go into, and that makes all the more sense. All right, water break. Things close. Okay, let's talk about House Lannister. Now, the Lannisters, I'm going to be paying very acute attention to them this season, mainly because I think that's the house where a lot of things are going to come to a head. Tywin and Joffrey's conflict about who has the bigger stick or bigger scepter, if you will, that has to come to a head this season. If it doesn't, I'm going to view it as just them wasting time, stalling. I feel like they set the foundation for that last season. They've been building up to it, and now that Jaime's come back into the picture, something's going to have to change. Now, granted, I don't know what role Jaime is necessarily going to play in that. I don't think Jaime can be a successful mediator whenever Tywin and Joffrey, go toe-to-toe with each other. I don't see that. He's in a perfect position to, he's Tywin's son, he's Joffrey's father, but Jaime's changed. And I'll get into more detail about that in a couple of minutes when I discuss Jaime further. But the thing is, both of them are in such high positions, and both of them are so stubborn characters. You got the old man Tywin, who's set in his ways, and you got the brat Joffrey, who thinks he can do whatever he wants because he's king. What happens when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object? So, if that whole thing doesn't get wrapped up this season, I'm going to be highly disappointed. Now I'm going to... I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about Cersei and Jaime in the same light, because my major expectation for both those characters has to deal with the change in their relationship. As I mentioned before, I don't see... Okay, my thoughts on Jaime are more along the lines of my thoughts for Tyrion in season 3. I don't know how he's supposed to fit into this dynamic anymore. Jaime's lost his sword hand, so he's not a useful sword fighter anymore. We did see in the trailers that he has become part of the Knights Guard again. I think he's going to be captain, but that's just a title. That's just a position. I don't see how Jaime will actually be much use in said position. And now, that he's back with his family, I don't know what role he's supposed to play with that either. As I mentioned before, I think at some point he will find himself in the middle of the Tywin Joffrey conflict. But the thing is, we know he's more favored by Tywin. That's his firstborn. That's the heir of Westerly Rock. But at the same time, that's the man who's responsible for Joffrey's protection. And it's his biological father. So, seeing as how seeing as how he can be easily torn between the two, I'm gonna be honest with you. I honestly expect Jaime to kind of just step back from the whole thing. You know, Jaime's not the same person that he was before his capture. Everything that has happened to him has changed his mentality. You know, his mind's all fucked up. And I think that even now his motives and his desires are different. His goals are not the same that they were before. So I don't think he'll just be able to kind of come back into the fray and just sort of, you know, go back to same old Jaime. I don't see that happening. And I tell you this now, if it does happen, then they just wasted a fucking season on character development with him. It'd be a complete and utter waste if he's just back to his same old routine. It's called character growth, ladies and gentlemen. But the one thing I do think, once again, coming to a head, the one thing I do think we will see in season 4 is this, what I am expecting to be the fallout of Jaime and Cersei's relationship. I don't see that relationship being anything like it was before, like it was at the start of the story. Cersei is more or less still the same character. Jaime is not. So there's a fucking rift right then and there. Their positions have changed. Cersei's supposed to be marrying Loras, which I stand by what I said in season 3. She's gonna get out of it. She's gonna find a way out of it. I don't know how. I just expect it to happen. Especially since in the trailer, Tyrion makes a comment where he says Cersei always gets what she wants. She doesn't want to marry Loras, therefore she'll get out of it. But yeah, just because of what's happened with both those characters, the fact that their relationship is public knowledge now, and the fact that they are living under their father now. They weren't at the beginning of the series. They weren't back in the pilot. Remember, they were living in King's Landing with Robert. Now, Big Daddy Tywin is back home. So, yeah, it's not going to be the same. Don't know how it's going to be different necessarily, but it's not going to be the same. And I could very easily see like the breakup occurring in this season. And the final thing I think is going to come to a head is pretty much Tyrion and his folks. Something's going to transpire. Just because Tyrion was pretty much the whipping boy of season 3, and we know he's too damn smart for that. He doesn't have the temperament for that. More or less, what I suspect to happen is because Tyrion's been forced to do so many things in season 3, that what they're doing is they're slowly building up the teapot. That kettle has been boiling for over a season, and I also suspect that Tyrion will have to put up with some more shit in season 4 as well. I mean, it's not over. He's gonna have more shit to deal with, and that pot's just gonna keep on bubbling, keep on going until finally, what I suspect to probably be episode 9 of season 4, he's gonna fucking snap. He's gonna snap. He's gonna take somebody out, either himself, or he's going to conspire to do so. But whoever is the one who forcing him to marry Sansa was the last straw, but it wasn't necessarily the one that broke his back. Whichever character is on the other end of that, they're going to be on the receiving end of his fury. I suspect that it will probably either be Tywin or Joffrey, because they're the two that's in a position of power, a position of authority over him. But at the same time, I could very easily see it being Cersei, because she, especially if that breakup between her and Jaime happens, because she's the one who on the... No, actually, I would probably, because not even on the surface, I would probably say she's the most vulnerable one of them all. Because we know Tyrion is not as vulnerable as they believe him to be. Cersei is. So it could go that route. And you guys know I've been calling the whole Cersei Tyrion thing for a while now. I've been expecting that blowout to happen. So we'll see. But I think it's going to be one of those three characters, either Tywin, Joffrey, or Cersei. And that's my 25-minute marker. So, in these last couple of minutes, I just want to go ahead and I want to jump in, I want to talk about Dany. Because the funny thing is, this is actually my second time recording this video. And the first time, I only had like 2 minutes left to talk about Dany. And now it looks like I have more of like 5. So let me just go ahead and talk about Dany. Unfortunately, my only real comment on Dany is that I think she will be doing more or less what she's been doing. Going to these cities, taking them over, freeing the slaves, rallying the people behind her. I expect more of that to happen. And another thing is, and granted, this is based off of some things that I know about the story in the books, but I don't think, this whole time I've been waiting for, Dany to finally get to the point where she can assert herself into the civil war going on in Westeros. But in hindsight, now that I think about it, I don't think that's the point of Dany, both as a character, as a symbol. I don't really think that's what the point of her character is supposed to be. I suspect that we'll be seeing Dany do more of what she's been doing for quite some time. Because my thing is, I think Dany is more important a character in the sense that she's supposed to represent the change that is wanted in Westeros. Dany is constantly wrestling with being a merciful figure, I don't want to say ruthless, but an intimidating figure, and where she tries to find the even ground between the two is just being a just figure. I think that's what Jorah, that's what Barristan want from her, to be a just leader. And so while she's wrestling with that, I think that her story is supposed to unfold where she does, demonstrate this intimidation, this sort of assertive force, so that she can implement her brand of justice throughout the world. And I think that over time, it's supposed to paint this picture of, this is what the audience, us the audience, can expect her to be by the time she does make it to Westeros. But I don't think that'll happen until Westeros has already fallen to ruin. I've long said that the Civil War is going to render the Seven Kingdoms asunder. I've been saying that since season 2, and I think that in the end, not in this season, but I'm talking about towards the end of the actual story, Dany is going to be the one who will have to come in and sort of pick up those pieces and start over. That's what I would suspect to happen, just because of how they've been telling her story. But more or less, Dany is pretty much, this is the creation of the monarch. This is the building blocks of a monarch. Alright, how many minutes do I have? I think 1 or 2. 7. Yeah, I pretty much got like 1 minute. So yeah, more or less, other expectations this season: new characters, new houses. Fuck, I didn't talk about Stannis. Somebody had to get left out. Sorry, Stannis. I'll talk about you when the episodes premiere. You just got left out in this one. Better luck next time. So anyway, that's pretty much going to conclude my Game of Thrones Season 4 expectation video. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. And in the comments below, leave your thoughts on this video, on your expectations for Season 4. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.